Today, we're going to talk about how you can make a free website almost instantaneous and in under an hour. So in our Discord here, I sent you guys a link to my GitHub portfolio. And if you open it up, it's just this free web page. And this free web page is an example of what you can do in GitHub in literally under an hour. So we're going to go over to my free portfolio guide GitHub here on the right. And I'm going to show you that I just recently put these up. I literally wrote all of this 37 minutes ago, and now I have a whole website that you are able to view. So this is an extremely simple process, and this is what you're going to be doing for your final project for the semester. We're going to be making portfolios of all the work that you've done so far in this class. Now, I know that sounds intimidating, but you will not be putting all of the work you've completed throughout the entire year on this website unless you want to. So we'll go through the project guidelines here in a minute. Now, the way that I was able to make this website so quickly is by using the GitHub Pages, which is a built-in backend support basically for static websites. So with GitHub and GitHub Pages, you can host any HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code for free. And they will deploy it for free. And all of it shows up under your username. So like, for instance, if I go type b.hu.github.io, that's my portfolio page. And I made all of this with GitHub Pages. So this has links to some of my research. It's got some of my projects listed. It's got a contact form. And again, all of this was done for free in about an hour's worth of work. So if you want to work with this or build this using GitHub's information, you're welcome to use their official documentation. It does have extra parts that I did not build into my documentation, like how to change to a custom domain name. I don't expect you guys to purchase a domain for that. If you want to be able to host that website on your own, you can find all that information inside of these docs. Now let's go ahead and take a look here at my portfolio real quick. This is not perfect by any means. Like I said, I threw this together for you guys just to prove to you how quickly it can be done. But this is the basics of what you will need to include for your portfolio. So in the first section here, we just want to have some information. So this is just a quick call to action. And I say, hi, I'm a scientist and a software developer. And then I give them some info about things I like. So my passions and what I'm currently working on. The next section your website has to have is an about me section. So just a general review or biography about yourself. You do not have to include a picture of yourself. I just threw one in there because it'll later make sense, because I'm basically showing you that with these GitHub pages, you can do anything you want. So in order to put a picture here, all I did was upload a picture to my GitHub repository, and I can access and link that directly into my GitHub page. The next section you have to have is experience of some sort. It does not have to be work experience. It doesn't have to be job experience. You could tell them where you went to school. You could tell them about online certifications that you have. It can be work experience if you'd like. If you've done any internships, list that under experience. So just a section about your experience as a programmer or a software developer. The section after that is your projects. And you'll notice over here, I threw in an extra section, which is my selected research and publications. So I just linked all of my publication, or not all of them, but some of my publications and the articles into this file, and then gave a quick description of that project. And I put that before my actual project. So like Robert was just telling us that at the end of the month, he's presenting on campus about his project with Ag Weather Network. So you totally could put that up here as one of these, as some of your research, and write a quick little summary, or if that's ever going to get published, you could publish the article here. Or if you want, you could go the other way and include it in your project section. Now, your project section does not have to be, super clean, fine-tuned projects. It can simply be you posting code that you want to show off, and then, publishing images or graphics that you made during that project, and just walking the people through, or a person through, why you did the project, and then of like really what the purpose was and what the outcomes of the project were. So this is kind of just like essentially your diary. It's literally your portfolio of work up until this point. And so here's an example I did. So I did neural networks with TensorFlow. So this is based off of the project that we did in class the other day. So I just wrote a quick little synopsis about types of neural networks and explained recurrent versus convolution, then gave an example of a recurrent neural network. So in this case, I used traffic patterns in a city. And then I created a new section and said, using recurrent neural networks for multivariate time series forecasting, and gave them the link to our Colab folder, which I actually don't want to go to. And then after that, I literally just took the code from our Colab folder, copy and pasted it, and made some fancy looking, basically sections or code snippets to include in here, gave them open access to our data, included some graphics, wrote a summary, you know, saying something about the data, showed them how we normalized it. So I led them through every single step of our pipeline, provided them with images to make it more interesting, gave them conclusions, and, you know, then just wrote a little final synopsis or final summary, and then said, thanks for looking at my tutorial. And this is as simple as your project could be. So it doesn't have to be like, wow, there's this amazing Django project that you guys built last semester, because your final projects were good last semester. If you don't want to pay to have your final projects, or to have your projects be hosted on a backend, so like if you don't want it to be 100% a fully functioning website with a database that you have to manage and all that kind of stuff, that's totally okay. You can do something simple like this neural networks project. This still shows that you have a lot of skills. You're talking about 200 to 300 lines of code, and you did an advanced machine learning project. So this is impressive, right? Or it should be impressive to you that you were able to learn this on such a short timeline. So you can have projects like this. You also can have projects like our final project from last semester, or a simple calculator project, or if you have JavaScript projects you want to include in here, go for it. You know, really, this is your portfolio. So make it what you want to make it, and just make sure that you're proud of what you put out there. And then the last section that you have to have is a contact me section. I'm not saying you're going to get a job from having this portfolio, but I think it's important that you anticipate that someone may find your research interesting or your work interesting and want to collaborate with you or want to work with you. So we're going to build in a contact section so that they can send you a little message, and that'll all get routed to your email. So this is the basics of the website. Now, the version you are looking at right now is in a what we call a markdown file. And a markdown file is just a basic text document that basically can be converted from a markdown file into HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And GitHub pages will work with either the markdown file or the HTML documents. It doesn't matter, either way is fine. And I created another version of this website, totally different theme, because the theme I'm using here is a built-in GitHub Pages theme. So it's a supported theme. You literally just have to type in the name of the theme and let it deploy the website, and it does all of this formatting for you. Whereas with this HTML, of course, I had to set up the boxes and center everything and just lay it out. So this is another basic theme that I've created for myself that I'd be happy to share with anyone if you want. I will say that this design or this layout where we're using HTML is a little bit more complex than you have to do. So if you want to do it, you're totally welcome to. If you don't want to do it, you're welcome to use the built-in supported GitHub themes. So those are the minimum requirements. All right, I just want you guys to create a portfolio that you're proud of, and that'll allow you to show all the hard work you've done over the year, because you did spend the year learning a whole nother language, and it'll be nice for you to be able to share that, as well as share your other computer science and other research work somewhere that's available to the public. So those are minimum requirements. I'm not sure if I said it, but you have to have at least 3 Python projects under your project section. So of course, I will grade you based on the layout of your site, making sure you have all the sections, making sure it's on your GitHub, making sure it's publicly available. Then we'll make sure you have 3 projects and 3 projects that are accessible to me. And then just a final reminder that this project is worth 25% of your grade. As you guys know, we do not have other tests or assessments. We're primarily project and homework based in this class. So it is a large portion. But with that said, you have, let's see, I think you still have 9 weeks to build this. And just putting this website together that you see here on the right took me about an hour to put together. So within 9 weeks, you should be able to do this, especially because the projects that you need for this website, you already have saved, or you already have access to multiple projects that you've been working on throughout the year. So we just need to aggregate it all and put it all together. And as always, when you're ready to submit your project, you're welcome to send me the link to your portfolio either on email or in Discord. And then on our schedule, we do have 2 days set aside for final project work days on April 24th and April 26th. And then we will present our portfolios either on May 1st or May 3rd, whichever one is supposed to be our last day of class. So I think that covers the basic guidelines. Up until now, does anyone have any questions? Okay, I will take that as a no. And what we are going to do is just practice how to do this. So today we're going to walk through how you can use this website that I threw together for you this morning, our free portfolio guide here, to build exactly what we're talking about that you need to build. So we're just going to go down here to section 2, get started. And we're going to do everything that it says step by step. So it says, I would recommend starting a new repository for your website because if you are using the free pages that GitHub provides, your website domain will be attached to your username. That's one thing that is kind of nice, but kind of not nice, right? You'll notice that my portfolio name is b.hu.github.io. That's really, really long, but it's also easy to remember because I remember my GitHub name. So you can change that. You can go into the settings and put your own custom domain. It just is going to cost you money, but some domains you can get for $2 a year. Some domains might cost you $50 a year. So it's just personal preference. And these domains will be attached to, of course, any of the files that you want on that website, which then go directly to a repository. So my recommendation for all of us is to just start with a new repository where we're building this website. So what we're going to do, starting right here, is create a new repository. So we're going to navigate to our GitHub homepage, which is what I'm on right now. And then we're going to look in the top right corner of our screen and we'll see this plus symbol. We're going to click on this plus symbol and there will be a drop-down menu. We're going to open the menu and then click New Repository. There we go. Once you're on the new repository page, you're going to give it a specific name for the repository. And if you're using the free option, this repository name needs to be linked to your username. So for instance, I've already built my portfolio website and it's being directed to this b.hu.github.io. Well, in order for you to do that, or if you want it to go directly to that link and for this website to be linked directly to that primary domain, what you're going to do is go b.hu.github.io. And you are going to call the repository by your username first, and then .github, then .io. But I've obviously already done that, and so it's telling me that already exists. So I have to use a different name this time. So we're just going to use the word example and call my repository that. But again, it'll need to be your username.github.io. And then that'll allow people to be directed directly to your portfolio page from that repository. Otherwise, you'll have to do something like what you see over here, where it says b.hu.github.io/free portfolio guide. So this free portfolio guide is the name of the repository that we're looking at right now for this README file. Okay, so I'm just going to call this one example. We don't have to leave a description right now. You'll notice that step 4 says choose the repository visibility. Well, it's a website, so we want other people to see it. So we're going to set it to public, which should be the default. Step 5 says scroll down and you'll see a section about initializing documents. we are going to select to add a README file. The reason for that is we can use the README file as the basic markdown file to create our website. And then after that, you can ignore the rest of this if you want, or you can select licenses if you'd like, but we can just move down to the bottom and click create repository. It might take a second. And this is the basic response that you'll get, right? It's just a blank repository with the README document you requested, and then it does the name of the repository in the README document. So the next thing we'll do after this is go and actually create the website, because all this did was create a repository on the back end of GitHub. In order to actually make your website, what you have to do is navigate to the repository that you created. We're there. Next thing we're going to do is open the settings in the repository. The settings are going to be the furthest right button to click on the top here, and mine will be hidden by those three dots. Once we get into the settings, we're going to be on step 3 here, and we're going to scroll down on the left-hand side until we get down to pages, and then we're going to click on pages. Once we're on the GitHub pages page, we're actually going to see on the screen that it says source right here. We're going to click on source and make sure that it's selected for deploy from a branch. Once we've selected deploy from a branch, what we're going to do is select which branch our information will be coming from. You can leave it as none if you would like. It will still load your website if you leave this as none. I personally am going to recommend that we do the main branch and then we say root. And the reason for this is if you attach any other folders to the main branch that are accessible under root, it can source the files for you. So for example, when we're working with Django, we have template folders. Those template folders can be stored on the main branch here under root, and then and then GitHub will know to access the templates so that it can get into your HTML documents and CSS if you're running a Django backend server or something. But that's for a different day. Once we've got the main branch selected and the root folder selected, we are going to hit save. And now we're kind of in the waiting process. So it'll tell you, if you go over here to actions, it'll tell you that it's getting ready to deploy your website. So it says queued, and this should only take maybe a minute, 2 minutes for it to run and build your website. And once it is finally done building, it'll have in your pages, it'll say up here something like this website is live at this link. And we can go to one of my other repositories and look at that real quick. So let's go over to bdoctor.github.io. So these are all the files that are currently on my website. And if we go over here to my settings, we can see that under my pages, it says that your site is live at this link and it was last deployed at this time. And you can visit your site there. So once ours is done, it'll say the same thing. And as of now, our site, there it is. So we can visit our site and it just says example. And the reason for that is because all our repository currently has right now is the example information, or the name of the repository, excuse me, in a MD, which is a markdown document. So now we're through actually creating your site. The next thing we're going to do is add content to the site. So at this point, we've activated the website and you have a completely customizable website to build your portfolio on. To add content to your website, you can either use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or you can use Jekyll Markdown files. Each has positives and negatives, and it is 100% a matter of personal preference on which one you use. Jekyll Markdown files are based off of the Ruby programming language, and Markdown files are a very, very common type of file. So like the Jupyter notebooks and the Colab notebooks that we've been working with, those are technically a form of a Markdown file. And then other programming languages like R also use Markdown files. And it's just a way for you to provide comments and also structure to your data. And then of course, if you've had general computer programming classes, you probably have experience with HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. So you can actually take the HTML, CSS, or JavaScript files that you want to include on your website and just come in here and add them directly into your repository. And the same thing with Jekyll files. If you wanted to add a Jekyll file in here, we could just go in and create a new file, or not a Jekyll file, excuse me, a markdown file. We could just come in here and create a new file and then name the file and say something like main.md. And then in main.md, you can start writing everything that you need for your website. So let's make sure we covered everything here. Yeah, so basically this section is just explaining what I said verbally. So go to your website repository, which our case is example. We're going to select to add a file, and you can either create a file or upload a file. So if you wanted to work with, if you wanted to practice building your code offline and just on your local server, you could save something like your index.html and then come in here and upload it. If you wanted to build it here on GitHub and use a markdown file, you could work with that directly from here. You also can build markdown files on your desktop. Now, one thing that some people don't know is that GitHub can host any kind of static file. So let's go back over to my other, there it is, bdoctor.hu, to my other file here. My other repository here, and you'll notice that there's a bunch of other things that are built in here. So we've got readme.md, that's my markdown that represents this entire folder here, or entire website here. Config.yml is basically the settings, the layout of the website, so the configuration file. I've got a PNG, another markdown file, JPEGs. So you can hold any sort of static file right here in the repository, and that's simply by uploading it. The one limitation to uploading files, it has to be, I believe, 50 megabytes or less, it may even be 25 megabytes or less. So if you cannot get it under that size, you may have to create a link to a Google Drive or some other resource to be able to store that file. Okay, so, and then this is an example. I built my website, I built my portfolio with the markdown style. It was quick and easy. And again, I used the built-in presets or themes that GitHub has. So when you build using the markdown file, all of that is just in a README document. So all of the information on my portfolio are available in the repository, just unstyled. And the only thing you can see down here that we do get an error, that's because this is HTML code and CSS code. So that's one of the things about using this markdown file is if we go in and look at it, at the bottom here, you'll notice obviously it's just text, but at the bottom here, you'll see that because I wanted to include this contact section, rather than referencing a different document, I just put the code directly into this markdown file. And in order to do that, what you do is encapsulate it or enclose it in the backwards ticks. So if you look all the way on the far left of your keyboard underneath the escape key, there's that squiggly line like the tilde under, and the one that doesn't require you to press shift is the backwards tick. So anytime you want to display code in a markdown file, you just put the tick marks. And if you want it to be active code, like what I have right here, where it's an HTML fill or form, you just put the ticks after the code. If you want it to be something like what I have right here for the neural networks and TensorFlow, where it's completely enclosed the code and it's like its own little text box, you put the ticks before and after the code. And there's a bunch more that we need to know about Markdown. So before we actually make an example tutorial or example website, what we're going to do is look at this basic syntax guide. Let's go ahead and open that in a different tab. So we'll look at this basic syntax guide just so that you guys can see what we're kind of dealing with here. And overall, I would say that Markdown, if you decide to use it, is not really that difficult. And this is a great resource. So Markdown has 6 levels of headings. And in order to activate these level of headings, you have a specific character that you're going to use, and then you're going to leave a space, and then you're going to write your heading. So in HTML, you'd have 2 tags. In Markdown, you have 1 tag. Again, it's personal preference. For instance, one of the reasons people were using Markdown is because HTML does require you to type more characters. But if you're working with something like VS Code, you can auto complete these characters. So it is 100% just personal preference at this point on which one you like. Either way, you get a website out of the deal. So that's headings. And anytime you want to change the structure or size of your headings or thickness of your font, you're going to use a different heading. So like, for instance, this one right here that says, "Hi, I'm Paul," is heading level 2. This one right here is also heading level 2. This one that says, "My passion," is heading level 3. So it's got 3 dashes. Then we're back to 2s. This is paragraph. So with paragraphs, we don't have to do anything to the text. You just write it in the document after your headings. So I wrote the heading, moved on to the next line, skipped a space, and then wrote the text that I was interested in. And that's how it works throughout the whole document. Even somewhere like right here where I've got it in bold, you have to put emphasis on it, or to bold something, you're going to put 2 asterisks. So Shift 8, then the words that you want to write, and then you end it with Shift 8. And then after that, of course, you would just write your text regularly. Obviously, this is not the cleanest looking. This is kind of hard to read because I only put 1 space in between these words. And that's just something that requires more time spent formatting. Line breaks. So in HTML, when we're writing a line break, you would put a break in, or obviously separate the lines from each other to where HTML would be able to interpret that you want a space there. It depends on which version you're using. In Markdown, you have to physically put a space in your code. So it's just an entire blank line in the code, and that is interpreted as, oh, there is a break here in the text. So like right here's an example. You can tell it's not reading anything in between these 2 lines of text, and that's because after this line of text, after this top link, I did a whole empty space and then started typing again. So that's just how you format that. Let's go down to emphasis. So this is bold that I was talking about. So I use the asterisk. You also can use the underscore, and it'd be 2 underscores on both sides. You also can italicize. I believe italics are, single asterisk or single underline on both sides of the text. And then you, of course, can also do both. So you can italicize and bold something if you'd like. If you need to put in a block quote, that is in here too. Let's see, lists are pretty simple. You just use, if it's an ordered list like 1 2 3 4 5 6, you just type the number and then start writing, and then the next time you hit enter, it will automatically write up or pull the letter, excuse me, it will automatically pull the number that you need. So if you had just finished 1, it'll type 2 for you, so it'll autofill that. If you need a space in between these items, again, you just have to leave a whole space. So if you just really want to exaggerate, and I think I did that somewhere, probably in this document. So like right here, I did a whole space in between these, and that's just the way my brain formats things. I want a good space there to understand it. Whereas here, you can tell that these 2 do not have a space in the Markdown file, but the other 2 do, right? So like if we compared that to right here, there's clearly a space there. So that's just my way of formatting. That's how my brain works. And it's very simple to do. You just leave a blank space in the form. For unordered lists, so if you want to do any kind of dots or dashes or further indentions than that, you can use any number of characters. So you can use a dash, you can use an asterisk, you can use a plus sign, a minus sign, whatever you'd like. For code, this is exactly what I was talking about. Like what you see right here, this is obviously wrong, but if you wanted to include code in here and you wanted it to show up as it does on my neural network project pages, like this, then you encapsulate or enclose both sides with the triple backwards tick. Images and links. I think this is the last that we need, is images and links. So for links, what you do in a markdown file is you are going to write the word that you want to be your link. So like, for example, right here, I say that the data set is found here, and that's a clickable link. So that would be what's showing up here in the text. And then after that, you do not put a space between this square bracket and this parentheses. And then the next set of parentheses is the link to the website. So like for this one right here, if we went and looked at the code, which actually we can, let's just go in right here. So let's find an example. So like right here, this is our collab sheet or document or notebook that we've been working off of. And you'll see that I say, check out the notebook for this project, square bracket. And then in the parentheses, I just have the entire link, the shareable link to our collab notebook. And once that actually is processed, you can see that it just shows up as that hyperlink. So pretty simple overall. Images are almost exactly the same, except what you do is add an exclamation mark at the beginning. So for instance, like this image that they are working with is found on their local device. So in the parentheses, they just specify the image. And then in the square brackets, what they're doing is specifying the alternate text or the accessibility text. So if someone couldn't see this, they could click on it and it would say the San Juan Mountains are beautiful. And then the exclamation is telling it that it's an image or a static object of some sort. So like on my page, all of these are in this link format. So any kind of image I have on the screen is showing up or is being read in with that exclamation point, the name of the image or the alternate text of the image, and then the location of the image. So that is just about it for Markdown. Again, it's personal choice, whatever you like. You are welcome to use either Markdown or HTML. GitHub will read both of them. So it is literally just up to you. Now, as I was saying, one of the nice things about using GitHub Pages is it's super simple. So the next thing we're going to do is actually build one of these pages in a very simple way that meets the requirements for what you have to do. And then we're going to apply a theme to it. And so one of the benefits of using the GitHub Pages Markdown themes is that they're built in. So we can open this link right here and it takes you to a GitHub doc that has info on how to add a theme to your page. It is very simple and I'll show you exactly how to do it. And then you can come over here to their supported themes. And I think they have 12 of them. So each of these was made by somebody and you can check out the theme or preview each of those themes and then decide which one you want on your page. You also can go and Google Jekyll GitHub themes, or maybe just Jekyll themes, I think was it. Let's see. So yeah, we can go to jekyllthemes.io here and then click on our drop-down menu and we can go down to free themes, all free themes. And then any of these right here are free and you can import them and put them on your GitHub pages just as we are doing. So they've got examples of online CVs, of blogs, of resumes, of just general landing pages and websites. They've got responsive website layouts. So yeah, any of these can be used for GitHub pages and they're free. All you have to do is click on them. It'll take you to the repository and you figure out what settings you have to use in your YML file, or your config file to make those work for your website. And again, if you don't want to do that, then you can just use the example themes that GitHub provides. So I think that covers the basics. I'm going to pause right there to breathe and see if anyone has any questions. All right, I will take that as a no. Silence normally means no. And what we're going to do now is make a very simple, just show you how this works and make a very, very simple folder, or not folder. We're going to make a very simple website in this example folder that we just created. So right here in this example repository, what we're going to do is just click on this pencil right here. And then I can immediately just start laying things out based on what I want the website to say. So like right now, you'll see that example is marked with a single hashtag. That single hashtag is telling us that this is a heading for the website. So I also want to have a heading. So I'm going to say, hey, it's Dr. Paul And then I'll make another little heading, just a subheading, say, thanks so much for checking out my portfolio. And then we can go further down and move into the next section, right? So we have this one right here that's shown with 2 hashes. I could come in here and go ahead and create a different size hash and then move into the About Me section. So this right here is enough to qualify as your this introduction section. That's all I want. Just something when somebody lands on your page, they know, oh, okay, so this is a portfolio page. After that, we'll move into section 2, which will be the About Me page. So I'll just write a section that says About Me. And then I'm going to just put some sample information. I'm going to say, my name is Dr. Paul Bergeron, and I hold degrees in biology and entomology. I've been studying bugs and ecology for 8 years. Now I also spend time working on computer science projects and would consider myself to be a, we'll say, full stack software developer. Right, so that's my basic information in the About Me section. Then we can go to my next section, just throw in some hashtags there. And we're going to write about my experience. So we're just going to put an experience section in here. And, oh, don't want the period. There we go. And then we can just make some stuff up. So I'm going to put stuff in bold here. And we're going to say, I'm going to use my school experience, not even work experience. So we'll say PhD, Washington State University. And actually, I'll leave it this way so I can show you a mistake that I'm making. And then I'll tell them my next degree, BS Biology with minor, or BS Biology, Washburn University. And then we'll say, we can leave it at that. That's enough for now. And then we'll go into our next section. And next section will just be projects. I'm going to use the same project that I made earlier, so the neural network. And the reason for that is because this is the only one that I've uploaded to this repository, so we can just quickly access this. So we'll talk about how to do links right now. So in the projects, we're going to say, you could, for instance, one thing you could say in the projects, you could specify your tech stack, or you could put that up here in the experience section. You know, I'm comfortable. I'll actually go in here and add that. I'm proficient at Python, R, JavaScript. What else? SQL or SQL, HTML, CSS, programming. You know, just something so that people can know what your tech stack is. And you could even say that my current tech stack is Python, R, JavaScript, SQL, HTML, CSS. Okay, perfect. Now what we're going to do is go down into our projects, and we're going to start listing our projects. So for instance, the way I did it on my page was I did bold, and then I threw my link in there and I said neural networks with TensorFlow. And then you close off the link, and then you're going to open your parentheses immediately. And in that open parentheses, you're going to go over here and copy the permanent link, and then come back over here and paste. And then we'll close that off. And then after you finish the URL to the file that you need is when you put your closing bold. And it'd be the same thing if you were trying to italicize a link. So you just make sure that that goes all the way at the end of the link. If you put it after the square bracket, you separate the link from its parent characteristic. After that, maybe I want to write a description about that project. So I say this project demonstrates my capability to implement neural networks in Python for predictive modeling. There we go. And then our last section is just that contact me section. So for your contact me section, you could give them your contact information and say, feel free to reach out here. And just this here could be a link to, whatever email that you want, then the message you at, or it could be an HTML form. So if we go back over to my original doc or my original repository, I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom of this repository, and I am just going to grab this text and this styling and copy it, and then come over here and also paste that in here. So this will give me a text form that asks for name, email, and the message that the person wants to send. And then all we're going to do is commit those changes, or hope that there's no errors, but also commit the changes. So right off the bat, before we even get the actual link to go check out our website, we can check out the README. So one of the things that I was talking about as I was working you through this was the fact that this was going to cause an error. So if you remember what it looks like as the actual text, it's showing up this way. So it says PhD, Washington State University, BS Biology, Washburn University. And it looks like it's on two separate lines, but it's not. When you actually look at it, once it's been rendered, it all blurs together. And that's simply because in the markup documents, you have to put a space. So once we put that space, it'll correct it. All right, and there you go. And then you can see that read in fine, this read in as a link, so hopefully it works. The contact me, like I said, you're welcome to do something like this if you'd like, and just have a link to your email, so someone could copy your email if they wanted and then reach out. But you also can put in the actual HTML for someone to view. And so that's the basics. It's as simple as that with a markdown document. These are the bare bones that we need to do this project. And you saw that took maybe 8 minutes to write. And if we go over to actions, we will check to see how the page is doing. So currently our build and deployment is in process. We're waiting. So as soon as this is done, which should only be a minute or so, we will have access to that website. All right, there we go. So we'll hop over here to settings. I know exactly where this website is, but if we just go down to pages, I want to show you that now it does say that this website is live, and it's at myusername.github.io/the example file. So we'll click on that and take a look at it. And this is what we've got so far. So obviously it's not the prettiest thing you've ever looked at, but it's just a markdown file. You'll notice that we've got everything is off center here. So the text box or the contact form is in the center, and everything else is off to the left. So that is that's a styling issue, and you are required to have styling or a theme to your page. So that would be something that we need to fix before you submit your web page. Let's check to see if this link works. So this link is to that other markdown file that I made in the exact same way, that just has all of the information for our website. So that's awesome. Or not for our website, excuse me, for our neural network project. So that's awesome. So that works. And let's see. The one thing that we did not include in that phase one, right? We've got our website up and running, got all the basic sections that we need. The one thing that we did not include was a theme. So we need to go back in and add a theme. So what we're going to do is go back over to code, and we're going to go add file, create new file, and we're going to say underscore config.yml. And if we go over to my page, which I just closed down, but if we go over to my page and click on the config.yml, you'll see that this is all the code that you need to add a format to your page. So you just have to provide it the title of the document, the markdown style, which is crammed down, where the theme is coming from, and then what plugins you need, which is a Jekyll remote theme. So that's all we have to put in here to be able to add some basics to our page. Now, again, we're using one specific style here. If we wanted to go in and find a different supported style, we could. Again, all of that is provided on this basic final project report. So the adding themes is the very bottom section here. And if you wanted to add a different theme, most of them first off tell you exactly what you need to add. But all you would do is have this remote theme section right here, and you write page themes / and then the name of the theme. And that is the only specific syntax. So what we have to wait on now is for this to update. While we're doing that, let's go ahead and go back over to these specific themes, and again show you that you can find your specific supported themes right here. So you have any of these as options on what you can include on your website. Let's check our progress. Still building. I'll stop one more time while we wait. Does anyone have any questions for me? Okay, perfect. So that's done building. Took 49 seconds, not too long at all. We're just going to refresh. There we go. Now magically we've got a theme to our page. We've got different colored text. We've got a whole different font. You can see that the contact me section slid off from the center to the left. So it's in line now, but the boxes still don't spread across the whole screen, or there's not like an outline box. So it does still looks a little weird. Another thing is buttons a different color. So this isn't perfect. That's why I'm bringing up all these flaws. This isn't perfect, but it gives you a really quick base to build. Like everything that you see right here, we started building this at 1:38 and it's now 1:51. So in 13 minutes now, you've built a website, and all we had to have was the basic information about ourselves and maybe some projects that you already had posted on GitHub. So this is pretty simple overall, just to get it going. Obviously, I know that there's a lot of other issues that can come up as you're doing this, but I'm just showing you another option. If you don't want to write all the HTML or CSS, you can use these markdown files, and they are still being read as HTML, because what happens is GitHub takes this markdown file, this README file that we wrote, it converts it and generates the HTML code from the Jekyll markdown. And then that HTML code is what's visible to everyone else. So you can see that on this page, we actually have sections for each of our sections on the page. So you could actually even go in here and copy all of this HTML code and use it as your base. And then, so use this as a way to generate the base of your HTML code and grab these different features that you want to change and adjust them as needed. So I'm just showing you that there's a lot of flexibility in this process, and you should not be scared of this. All of you are good enough programmers and strong enough programmers to get this done, and I am certain of that. So that's what I had planned for today. Does anyone have any questions about the final project or how to approach it? No questions. No questions. Perfect. Okay. So last thing I'll just remind you of is that this document, your guidelines to how to build your website, are available on the web. So I posted the link right here in our Discord file. It just says, oh, well, that's for today specifically. So if you go into our spring materials, you've got the file right there. And then it's also posted in our announcements. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. You are welcome to go and look at all of my files. All of these websites are publicly accessible. So you can just go to bdoctorhu and you will see first off our class, and then you also can go scroll through these repositories and you'll find there's the free portfolio guide and there's my website. So you can view either of these, and you are welcome to steal the code from here and use it on your own websites. With that, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful spring break. Please get some rest, and I'll see you next time.